All right, guys, let's talk about some books that I hate, that I loathe entirely. Let's talk about all the flops, all the horror shows that I have. Now, some people had asked me, we like the rant videos and they wanted my 2024 worst of. And honestly, I just don't think I had a ton just last year. And a good few of those I could remember none of. So I just thought I would take a compilation from last year and previous years and just talk about some of my most hated and despised books. So that's what we're gonna do. And there will be some from last year. I will point those out. Some I might just mention vaguely, especially if I already have a rant review smashing the book. Keep that in mind. So this is in absolutely no particular order. I did not rate these at all. I do have a most hated book by far, but aside from that, we can say we hate them all equally. Doesn't matter. Okay, so the first book I am going to mention is one by Nicholas Sparks, and that is The Best Me. This is one that I read last year. I think it was a 2, maybe a 2.5 for me. I don't know. But I really did not enjoy this book, and it's made me really start to reevaluate Nicholas Sparks books, and I want to reread all the ones I have. I'm like, have I never seen this before? Because this book was awful. This book was a disgusting book. It's supposed to be a book kind of on first love, and no, it did not hit for me. Besides the fact that there was a lot going on in this book and a lot of side character stuff trying to weave together these stories, it felt a little unfocused in that aspect. But the actual main plot point isn't just about first love coming back, because that first love is married and has kids. So the entire book is a cheating trope. Huge marital conflict, cheating trope, just disgusting, not appropriate in any way. And then they try to end it by making it out oh, this is so sweet, and now we're gonna fix our marital conflict. And I'm that was honestly the worst ending ever. I have so many thoughts about the ending. I do believe I did a video review on this one though, so if I find that, I will link that if you want to know more about it. Just a bad romance book, honestly. This was not, I would not even classify it as romance, because I'm where was any part of this romantic? How? No. Okay, the next one I'm going to talk about is A Psalm for the Wild Built. This is by Becky Chambers. I don't think I did a specified review for this one. This is from this last year. There are things I remember about it and things that I don't. I do think that I gave this one a 1 star, and it just, this book drove me crazy. There is they, them pronouns used all throughout it. And it's partially because some of it is with a robot, but then also not, if I remember correctly. But there's a part later when there's more than just 1 or 2 characters or something at a time. And so when they're saying they, them, constantly, you have no idea who's talking. The dialogue is you can't keep track of it, because everybody who's talking and everybody who is being referenced to is always they. It's not grammatically correct at all, besides the fact of pushing an agenda down your throat. And that's honestly what this book felt like to me, was a giant agenda being tried to be pushed down my throat, is what the majority of the book felt like. It had some very beautiful writing and lines throughout it, about nature and stuff, and it had some very thought-provoking and deep, questions and open-ended things like that all throughout it. I don't really think it was that deep at all, because most of the questions I sat there thinking, yeah, there's a very easy answer to that question, and it's found in God and in the Bible, which your woke logic and agenda construction of society will never find. It was very frustrating book to read for me. It's very LGBTQ, all that stuff, plus friendly and positive and all that stuff. There was not a lot that I liked about it at all. And it was honestly just very frustrating to read and to get through, especially with the fact that any of the deeper parts, I was just like, yeah, that's easily found in the Bible. But yeah, let's just completely just keep ignoring that fact that the Bible and Christianity has already given the answers to all of these things, because, you know. It also did have quite a lot of cussing in this, so, and just randomly too. I feel like this wasn't even a book that, like, I don't know, there are different ways that people can use cussing in books, and this one just kind of seemed weird and random and out of place. I think maybe it's because the actual author's writing, like, I can tell that she has a talent, because there were some very, like, lyrical and pretty, like, lines and things that she wrote, and I was like, wow, if you weren't, like, of this agenda, you could probably write some actually good stuff. But her ideology is, like, that's all she was trying to write. And so having the cussing in there too, when she had such, like, pretty and, like, lyrical, like, lines sometimes, was just really off-putting too. But yeah, I don't ever recommend this to anybody, but it is one that I read last year, and it's probably going to continue to stay on most hated books for me personally. Okay, I did just want to mention these two real quick, but I'm not going to talk about them, mainly because I already have book reviews on these, and they're both nonfiction, so I don't want to misspeak on the specifics that I didn't like, because a lot of it is theological type of things. And that is The Well-Watered Woman by Gretchen Saffels, and Another Move God by Beth Runkle, I believe. So I have videos for these. Just know that they are not very theologically sound. And I would not recommend them to any Christian woman looking for a good book, a nonfiction book. So yeah, just get rid of those. The Book Swap by Tessa Bickers, I think. This is another one that was last year. I guess I'm just hitting all the ones last year first for some reason. And this was just kind of a weird book. It had such a great concept to it. It's basically like somebody leaves a book and a little free library, and I think they, like, wrote in the margins or something, and somebody else picks up the book and reads it, and they love the writing in the margins. They write back to them, and then they put it back in for them to read, and then they, you know, they do the same thing vice versa with another book. So it was super cute concept. I loved the concept. In no way was this concept executed very well at all. The actual parts of the book that dealt with the concept of the book weren't too bad, which I think is why I gave it a 2.5 stars instead of, like, a 1 or something. But the problem is that it wasn't much of the book at all, for one. And there was also just such weird things throughout the book. I mean, and things I don't like. There was gay and lesbian side characters active in the book. There was just casual sex thrown around as a way to avoid things. There was a lot of unhealthy ways of dealing with grief. And there were some really disgusting sexual descriptions of body parts in it that I was, like, trying to skim and skip over. It's just, like, some really weird stuff. And the plot, even though it's described as kind of that, like, the book swap thing, goes into a whole backstory high school drama thing with some other friend, and it just, I did not like it at all. I felt like they kind of tricked you with what the whole story was about to begin with, and then it wasn't very clean, and it was kind of vile, and just had a lot of weird stuff in it. So I was like, I would love somebody to take this concept and to actually write it purely as the concept, and to not have some other big overarching plot that completely, like, takes over the whole book, and, you know, that just to be a tiny little subplot that's barely there. That bothered me. So this is definitely not my book. Not my book at all. Did not like this one. And I have talked about this on my channel quite a bit, but I do not really like thriller books. I found this out, I would probably say in 2023 was when I really started to realize that I don't like thriller books, because I had 2 thriller books pretty back to back. I think they were within, like, following months of each other that I just like hated and loathed them both so much. And I actually didn't finish one entirely, but I did end up like going ahead and reading the last few chapters at the end to see if I was right in the matter. And so since then, like my thriller books, I've been trying to get through just what I own and stuff, just to like get rid of them, see if I can find any that's good, because I want to like thrillers. I thought I liked thrillers. I've noticed, I guess I just like sci-fi thrillers, like Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park. So yeah, one book that I read this year that was a thriller was The Couple Next Door. I think it's by Sherry Lapina. Did not like this. Again, it's always so much on like cheating, and just like cheating is almost always in the plot line of thriller books. This one I thought of, okay, it's either this or this, and then I was like, it could be this, and that would make it slightly more interesting, but it's still in the same plot line, and it was basically that last thing that I thought. So I was like, okay, I'll give you 2.5 stars. So not much better. But in the previous year, 2023, I read An Anonymous Girl by Greer Hendrickson? I can't remember. But An Anonymous Girl. And I could not stand this one. This one was all just like cheating and jealousy and lies, and I'm like, I thought thrillers were supposed to actually like be thrilling. I thought like these big whatever things were supposed to happen. I didn't think that all a thriller was somebody getting cheated on and somebody going crazy because of it. Because I don't want to hear about that. I don't want to read about that. It's predictable. It's boring. So I did not like that one at all. Another like 1 to 2 star one. And then The Silent Patient, which I know so many people love this book. Sorry about it, but by Alex, whatever the heck his last name is. This one wasn't for me. This is the one that I DNF'd, and I looked at the end and I was 100% right. I didn't get anything from it. Also just his writing, the way his characters were, there was a lot of just like awful behavior, infidelity, like, smoking, and, you know, just all these awful bad habits. Everything is just kind of put as like natural and normal in all these books. And I think that's what bothers me the most about it, is that, you know, they just make it out like drinking and smoking and, you know, cheating and having casual sex and doing whatever the heck I want is just a natural, normal thing. That's not bad in any way and doesn't affect me in any way. But yet at the end of the book, somebody dies or goes crazy or whatever. And it's like, well, clearly it did. And yet nobody ever learns in these books. So I don't know. I just don't like that what I've seen, most thrillers are just exactly the same. And I've guessed the ending of every thriller I've read just about, at least of those typical thrillers. So not for me. I probably also have some older videos about Anonymous Girl and The Silent Patient. If I can find them, I'll put them in the description box for you. An older one that I have not liked, and I don't remember a ton about it at this point in time. I read this when I was a teenager, and it was one that a lot of people liked, and that was called If I Stay. I think it's by like Gail something. I'll have it up somewhere for you. I'm dropping things. But If I Stay, it's about she's a musician of some kind, maybe like a violinist or something. She gets in a car accident with her parents, I believe, like with her family. And I think she's the only one that survives. Like this kind of is like the beginning of the plot line. And basically the entirety of the book, or the most of the book, takes place with her in a coma, and it's like her still being aware of stuff and being like, should I stay or should I go? Basically, you know that song. Everybody knows that song. That's what's running through my head, like when I think about it. Should I stay or should I go? That's all that runs through my head. And I just didn't find this romantic. I didn't find it interesting. I also thought a lot that they did was weird. I didn't like the ending. The romance wasn't there for me. Like nothing hit for me in this book. So it was like, a 1 or 2 stars for me as a teenager, and I honestly do not remember details, but I'm not gonna reread it to refresh my memory because I did not like it. So. All right, now I saved some of the best for last, and that is because I'm going to be trashing some classics. So classic lovers, you can come at me in the comments if you'd like, but I think everybody here knows I am not a classic hater. Some of my favorite books are classics, so I don't just hate the classics, guys, but these are 3, I believe, particular classics. Not for me. Did not like them. I'm going to start with the one that I remember the least about, and that is The Scarlet Letter. I have seriously debated about just unhauling my volume of The Scarlet Letter, even though it's a classic. I don't give away classics a lot just because they're a classic and somebody else in my family might like it more. I might could use it for school. Whatever. I just don't unhaul them often, but that one is one I have thought about unhauling. I just did not like this book. And again, I don't remember a ton of specifics about this one. This was one I read in high school. I didn't like Nathaniel Hawthorne's writing style at all. I was very bored. I was very agitated with the way he wrote things. I got confused at some points over it. I just didn't like it. And then I knew what the story was, right? And it wasn't so confusing that I couldn't follow along or anything like that. I knew the initial story to begin with and I could follow along and everything, but I just felt like it was not executed or shown very well. That is my main thoughts and feelings that I remember about it, is I do not remember it being executed very well. I remember other retellings and spin-off things that they've made from the story of The Scarlet Letter being a lot more clear and potent on just how it happened and what happened and the just the overall arching message of it, and I felt like I did not get much of that from the book. So I don't know, it's not really one that I ever want to reread. Even though it is a classic, a lot of times I'll give classics a second chance, but it's just really not one that I want to give a second chance to. So yeah, my second most hated classic, I guess, I don't know. This one I do really hate, and I do remember quite a bit about. And I have felt quite vindicated because Ian Goobly just did a video very much like this one, talking about some of his most hated books, and he mentioned this one in it. And I was like, yes, finally somebody else hates this book. And that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Is not it for me, guys. I hate this book, and I know so many people who love this book. I get the point of the book. I just don't like it. I can give the book, just as Ian says in his video, I can give her and the book some credit for what they've done and what came out of the book. But honestly, reading the book made me think, oh, for the first time in my life, oh my goodness, the film industry did quite an amazing thing taking this book and making it into the amazing timeless classic horror film that it is. And I'm not nearly as into movies, and I'm definitely not into horror, so that's what this book left me feeling. The characters, and especially the monster, is so whiny. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on. Whine. And there was just so much that I feel could have, you could have still kept some of these really deep points that she was trying to convey, but done them differently. I always felt that way. When I read this, I was actually determined for a while, and I am not a writer, so this never happened, but I was determined to rewrite Frankenstein better than Mary Shelley wrote it. Very arrogant of me, especially since I'm not a writer, but I still feel like somebody else who is a writer could probably write it better than her. I just don't think her ideas were conveyed very well in the way she wrote it. I think she did kind of bad conveying and hitting the point of certain things. And then again, with the horror aspect, I know the day and age, but the film industry really did a number on taking that and just pulling it out and making it what it is. So yeah, I don't like Frankenstein, so I'm sorry if you do. It's not my book. And I'm just very glad somebody else doesn't like it too, because sometimes you feel a little crazy when everybody loves books and you just can't stand it. All right, and the last book, and this is my most hated book ever. And I believe I started out talking about this a lot on the channel because I think I read it in 2022. I think I read it in 2022 and I started my channel in 2023. So it was more fresh on my mind, but I haven't talked about this book in a while. So some of y'all may not know about this, but my most hated book, the one that I loathe entirely, that I will advocate for everyone not reading. Go and burn this book. I would applaud you. I know, I just said burn a book. That's how bad this book is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. And a lot of people say this is a classic. Some people say modern classic. I don't know what exactly it falls under, but I think that it is quite disgusting that we have deemed this either one. This is by far literally one of the most disgusting books I have ever read. And I only finished it because of the fact that it was making me so mad and so disgusted that I was like, I have to finish this book, because only then can I fully 100% trash this book, knowing every detail of it. So that's what I did. I finished it and I have trashed it ever since. A lot of people talk about how this is like supposed to be some great exploration and it's really tragic story and everything about like how blacks and black ladies especially were treated in the South in this time frame, and I don't see it. I don't see the point of the book at all. Honestly, I don't see that there was much point in this book. This book has so much abuse and assault and just awful stuff talked about all the time. All the time. It is all throughout the book. There is also a lesbian relationship, a large part of the book. And I really don't like it when this stuff is not told before you go into a book. But I hate it even more when it's one of the big overarching like plot points or ends up being one of the most important things of the book and nobody mentions a single thing about it. Made me mad. Yeah, this is just like the main character that we are following, which you're kind of following her and her sister, two different timelines. They kind of split up, but you're mainly following this one girl. Yes, there's a bunch of awful things happening. And a bunch of awful things did happen to people in these times. Like, awful things have happened to people in every single time, a day and age, for crying out loud. But yes, a lot of awful things happened at this time. We're talking about that. We're showing that. Are we showing any improvement? Are we showing any, like reconciliation? Are we showing anything to have any positive outcome or anything to kind of like imply on, oh, how much we could do better? No. No, we're not. All this book does is shows you all of these awful things and then says, you think we can get more sinful? I think we can get more sinful. I think we're going to be more, and more sinful. And we're just going to keep showing it all on page. It made me mad. Made me very mad. And obviously the main character is the one that ends up having a lesbian relationship, which really bothered me. But the main character also like doesn't, I don't know, it's weird. I think she like doesn't believe in God, but then whenever she's mad, those types of people, she like calls out and like cusses God out and stuff like that. Swell, huh? But then there's also stuff when she's talking to God or she's trying to whatever to God, and like some of the most like untheologically sound things that have ever been said, I swear, are probably in this book. Because, oh my dear goodness, this woman's insane. Towards the end of the book, she thanks God and claims that God sent her the woman to love and be her lover while she's still married to her husband so that she can just have both of them. Why would anyone like this book? I don't care if it's a classic. Like, I do not understand why anyone would like this book at all. Along with this, just an overarching theme throughout the entire book, and from what I took, was that Alice Walker is probably the most sexist woman I have ever read from. Her sexism and how much she hates men was palpable. As I was reading, I was like, wow, I have never read such pure hatred for men, because literally everything was a man's fault in the book. Everything was a man's fault. They were evil. They were from the devil. But, those women went out there and they did these devilish things too. But they were all right. They were friends with the devil, so we don't care. I'm sorry, because, I don't know, God was shining good on them. I don't think so. The writing just bled I hate men. I hate men. I hate men. They're evil. They're evil. They're evil. But women can do no wrong. So basically, sexism and feminism, just all over the pages. It drove me crazy. It drove me crazy. So that's definitely my most hated, and I feel like from how much I've talked about this one, you can tell, I just don't hate other books the way I hate this book. Which I guess is a good thing. I haven't read as many books as bad as this one, even if I have read other bad books. But yeah, I would suggest y'all stay clear of these books. If you like any of these books, I'm sorry about it. I'm not trying to attack you, but if you like the color purple, why? I'm not trying to attack you, but why? What good can you find in that book? Honestly, what good can you find in that gosh awful book? I hope y'all enjoyed my little rant. I wasn't that ranty with all of them, honestly, until that last one. Hope y'all enjoyed it. I would love to hear what your least favorite books are. I love the unpopular opinions. I love the sass, the rage. And hey, maybe you can steer me away from another really bad book so that I can just continue to read better books, That's what we all like. I hope you guys had fun.